Okay, reader pops, let's see what I got into this past month.
You look pretty.
Thank you. Okay, these and then these.
Oh, I love these lights. Who did them for you?
My hubby.
Your what? Oh my gosh. You read all those this month?
Yeah, let me.
Goodness.
Yeah! Okay, reader pops, let's go over all the books that I read in August. It was a spectacular reading month. I read 18 books. I started this reading journey midway through June, so this would be like my third-ish month reading. So I'm kind of like at the peak obsession where I just read so many books. I was just ravenous at the start of this month. So let's waste no time and hop right in. First, I read this romance book called It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is a Schitt's Creek inspired romance. I don't know that show. I've never seen it, but a lot of people love that show, and they said that they loved this book. I also love this book so much. It's a grumpy sunshine trope, and I really love how defined each character was. Piper is this Instagram influencer, which I thought was really funny. She's like an LA socialite, and she gets in trouble, so her rich father banishes her to this small little island called Westport, and she meets this sea captain named Brendan, and he does some of the most dangerous crab hunting or something. This was such a well-written romance book, and I really loved the characters in it. Tessa Bailey is known for writing some raunchier scenes, so I think there was like 2 or 3 scenes that caught me by freaking surprise. And just a little note for my book channel, I try to stay away from smut, or I will skip over the scenes as best as I can. And this is the month where I realized that just because a cover is cute and innocent looking doesn't mean that the contents inside are. And I learned that the hard way this month. So yeah, there's some raunchy scenes that I was not expecting in this book. I mean, it's only like 2 or 3, so you can skip it if you also are trying to avoid smut. If you are not, I am not judging you. Let's just get that straight here from my mouth first, ladies and gentlemen. Just because I don't prefer it does not mean I'm looking down upon you if you read it. But yeah, I really liked this, so I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, Anxious People by Frederick Backman. He is super well known for his book called Beartown, if you've read that one. And I'm pretty sure this would be considered literary fiction, which I don't read a lot of at all. So this was super interesting for me to read. I bought these 2 books because I was just on Goodreads and I was looking up like the most read books that week, which is how I fell into reading this. And it's also how I fell into reading this book. And I thought the back of it was so interesting. It says, looking at real estate isn't usually a life or death situation, but an apartment open house becomes just that when a failed bank robber bursts in and takes a group of 8 strangers hostage. So you're basically following the 8 characters who are held hostage and the bank robber in this book. It's super character focused, not so much plot focused, but I thought it was so well written. It talked about super deep and heavy subjects in a really lighthearted manner. I thought the commentary on money was super interesting, and I really loved some of the characters in this. And I really liked how at the end of each chapter, you would kind of see how every character tied into one another, kind of like the movie Love Actually. So that was really cool, and I can tell he's a really great writer. Since I don't usually read literary fiction and there was like no romance plot or fantasy plot, I kind of was like, do I find this boring or do I not? I don't think literary fiction is like my favorite thing ever, but for this being one of my first ones that I read, I really enjoyed it. So I also gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, Atlas 6, which was in my previous video. If you've not seen it, I talked about all my 5-star reads this year. Yeah. This book made me realize that I love dark academia, I love magical realism, and this will probably be one of my favorite books this year. You follow 6 magical characters, and there's competition, there's love interest, there's academic rivals to lovers, so many things that I love, so I highly recommend this 5 out of 5 stars. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. So this was one of those books that I had to learn the hard way, just because it's like cute and colorful on the outside, it's not so innocent on the inside, and this was so much worse to me than It Happened One Summer, because It Happened One Summer is like a typical romance where they fall in love first and then, you know, you see a raunchy scene here or there. This book starts not based on love, but based... Okay, honestly, it's my fault because I was reading this book, right? Like just based off of someone's recommendation, didn't look into it further, and I'm reading it and I am taken aback. My jaw's literally on the floor. I was like, what am I reading? And so I'm like probably however many pages in, and I was like, okay, let me just read the back of this book because I have no clue what I just got myself into. I'll just read it for you. Stella Lane comes up with algorithms to predict customer purchases, a job that has given her more money than she knows what to do with, and way less experience in the dating department than the average 30-year-old. It doesn't help that Stella has Asperger's, or that French kissing reminds her of a shark getting its teeth cleaned by pilotfish. She needs a lot of practice, which is why she hires an escort, Michael Pham, who is Vietnamese, and may or may not be why I picked up this book, not knowing he was an escort, okay? The Vietnamese Swedish stunner can't afford to turn down Stella's offer. And when she comes up with a lesson plan, he proves willing to help her check off all the boxes. I can't read the rest. The little lesson plan that she came up with was for scenes that I would usually skip in a book, but that's what this entire book starts with. So it starts with them just like learning how to do the dirty, basically, and then they fall in love. So if I could take this book and like remove the first half and then just have them when they're in love, such a cute story. At the end, I was like, oh my gosh, my heart is exploding. It's so cute. The things that Stella does for him warm my heart so much. The Vietnamese family dynamics, amazing, but I could not believe my eyes reading this book because you can't really skip the smut scenes because it's like so much of the plot. So I don't recommend this if you're trying to skip spice in books. And this is like part of a trilogy, so I guess I'm not gonna be reading that. I don't know if they're as spicy. You can let me know in the comments if they are and if I should continue it because I really liked it when it was like this part of the book. But yeah, I learned the hard way that I need to be the one doing the research before I read these books if I have like certain stipulations before reading. So totally my fault. So I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I'm so sorry. If it didn't have all that stuff in the beginning, I love their love story after that. Next up, I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I wanted to try some of her more popular fantasy books, and I picked up Vicious, and I thought that the synopsis was super interesting. It's kind of in the dark academia realm, which is why I picked it up. So there are these people in the book called Extraordinaries, and they come up with a theory that they became extraordinary by having a near-death experience, so they each try to basically die and then come back to life to see if they get superpowers. So that was super interesting. But then the book takes a dark turn, and basically one of the characters in this book kills people because they are sinners and unnatural and against God. And then I was like, okay, so in The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, who is by V.E. Schwab, she basically makes a deal with the devil. So I'm trying to see a lot of spiritual themes in her books, and they're not necessarily positive. And as a Christian, I don't think I'm gonna be reading any more of her books just because I don't want to read about that. But yeah, this book was really good at the beginning, and then once that started happening, I was like, man, this is a dark book, and I feel dark inside reading it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. And the thing is too, even if I wasn't Christian, this book is just like a little bit too dark for me. So okay, next I read some books from Steph Bohr's favorite books list, and that was a video if you haven't seen it. So I read The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which is the first book in the Off-Campus series. This series is super popular, and she just dropped like a new epilogue book called The Legacy that everyone is talking about. So I read this. You can watch that video to get more of my in-depth reviews and ideas and why I gave this only 3 out of 5 stars. It was like a really fun read because they're all in college, and it's just like gives you those fun college vibes. But I don't like Garrett Graham as much as most people do, so 3 out of 5. And then I read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas for that video, and Penelope Douglas is known for her smut scenes, so this book was not for me. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is actually a romance trilogy, which I thought was so cute. So Chloe Brown basically has a near-death experience, and she realizes that if she had died, she would have nothing fun to look back on. She thinks she's kind of boring, so she makes a little bucket list. And she meets a man called Redford, and they fall in love, and they start doing her bucket list. I thought it was super cute and a sweet book, and it almost reminded me of how a YA novel was written. And then boom, raunchy scene that I was not expecting. Again, with the innocent covers. The thing with this book is that unlike It Happened One Summer or like any of these other books, it's kind of written like young adult anyway, so when those scenes come, it's not very surprising. Whereas this seemed so like cartoonish and young and playful and lighthearted that when those scenes came along, it seemed even more out of place to me. So just a warning for that. He goes to therapy in it. We love that. We love an emotionally aware man who is working on himself. And then there's a little bit of drama at the end that I felt like was just placed in there because you're supposed to have a little bit of drama at the end so that there's like a conflict solution. Didn't enjoy that, so I gave this a 3 out of 5. I do feel like I would like the other 2 books in the Brown series though, so might pick those up. And then I read November 9th by Colleen Hoover. I read this in one sitting. I couldn't help myself. This follows a girl named Fallon and a guy named Ben. Fallon used to be an actress, and then she was in a house fire, which left her with a lot of scars, so it kind of affected her acting career. And she meets this aspiring author named Ben at a restaurant, but he meets her on the day that she's actually moving to New York. So they agree that they're just going to not talk to each other, not follow each other on social media, and they're only gonna meet up once a year on November 9th. And this book had, I mean, people said, oh my gosh, the plot twist in this, which is why I was excited to read it. It had more than one plot twist. My jaw was on the floor multiple times, and Colleen Hoover was just really going hard on this book. But I really, really liked it. I really enjoyed it, and it's super interesting. Like, obviously I just could not put it down. I gave this 4.75 stars. I mean, I might as well just like round it up to 5 stars. Colleen Hoover, cannot go wrong. Next, I read Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortlund. This is a nonfiction book about the heart of Christ for sinners and sufferers. Super amazing book. If you listen to sermons or anything like that, a lot of people quote excerpts from this book because it is just so dense with goodness. I highly recommend it if you want to get to know Jesus more, and if you struggle with understanding grace and mercy, being in a perpetual state of sin and trying to understand God's love for you and Jesus's heart for that. So this helped me so much, and I highly recommend this. And staying on the Christian note, I read a book by C.S. Lewis. Gotta read a book by him every month. He's my favorite author. So I read The Great Divorce. This is an allegory. Let me look up the definition of allegory. A story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or political one. So this is an allegory on heaven and hell. It's basically just a bunch of different conversations between different characters, and they have basically hidden meaning behind sort of like ideas in the Bible. Obviously, it's not like a direct depiction of heaven or hell, and C.S. Lewis clearly states, do not take this as like what heaven and hell will actually be like. It's just an allegory, and it's only like 146 pages. I read it within 2 hours, I think, and C.S. Lewis is just the best person at words and explaining complex ideas ever. So highly recommend this one as well. And then to make up the next 7 books that I read, they were all part of the Addicted / Callaway Sisters series. So I read Addicted to You, and then it goes Ricochet, and then Addicted for Now. Oh my gosh, Addicted for Now is when it gets so good. And then you go to the Callaway Sisters series, so you read Kiss the Sky, one of my favorites as well, Hot House Flower, Thrive, which is back to the Addicted series, and then Addicted After All, which completes the Addicted series, and then you read the 3 last books in the Callaway Sister series, which I'm on right now, and this is just one of my favorite series ever. I mean, not that I've really read that many. I'm doing an entire reading vlog on it because it's 10 books, and I'm just like capturing my reaction to all of them. I love the characters so much. It's kind of Gossip Girl vibes. It's these 4 sisters and their love interests, and they create this like found family friend group, and they are the sons and daughters of billionaire fathers. So that's fun. It's just so dynamic. I love it so much, and I cannot wait to post the reading vlog for it. That's what took up a lot of my reading this month, and I'm even kind of like dreading the next 3 books because they're all over 500 or 600 pages. Even though I love the series, I just feel bad for all of the standalone books on my TBR. But that's everything I read in August. I am so excited to start reading books that put me in the fall mood. I'm gonna read some dark academia, The Secret History, The Night Circus, all these sorts of books, and I'm so excited about it. So keep updated with me on Instagram at HaleyPham or on TikTok at HaleyPham, and then I also have a main channel if you're not subscribed to that, where I make fun little vlogs as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe for more book content, leave a book recommendation down in the comments below, and let me know what you want to see next. I love you so much. Bye.